Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas. And today I have with me Rilwan. I think I screwed it up. Rilwan Lawal.
Perfect. You got
Awesome. Founder and CEO at GigEasy. So Rilwan, so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, and I'm happy to be here as well. Pretty good day, can't complain.
Awesome, fantastic. So, according to LinkedIn, you are in New York City. Are you physically in New York City?
I actually just moved about 3 weeks ago, so now I'm in Houston. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Houston, that is a ginormous move.
Yeah,
so
it was yeah.
Is this a going back home for you, or is this a running away from the weather in New York or the cost of living in New York, or?
A bit of both.
Okay.
Family felt like that was like the best next move for us. So, setting up our roots and starting families and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Good for you. Good for you. Welcome to the South. I hope you're ready.
Oh, you're also in the South. What part of the South are you in?
So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia,
Okay.
which is weird because Atlanta itself is not very southern, but you drive 20 minutes out of Atlanta and it's a deep South, right?
Yeah.
So now the Atlanta metro area is very okay. Awesome. So, real one, we always give the guest the chance to get the elevator pitch. So, what is GigEasy?
Yeah. So GigEasy is a benefits platform for the fast-growing gig economy. I think everyone is aware at how fast the gig economy is growing, how many people are sort of quitting their jobs to look for that independence and able to manage their lifestyle as they so see fit. We believe that benefits should be at the palm of your hand and shouldn't be tied to an employer. So we're building essentially a platform that allows you to manage your life as you see fit.
Okay. So sometimes when I ask people to give the elevator pitch, sometimes they have a very long pitch, and I have and especially if they're like CTOs. I'm not a technical person myself. I'm an insurance person, but not like a technology person. And sometimes I have a hard time, like I look at all the notes and I like I'm having a hard time figuring out exactly what they do.
Yeah.
In your case, you had like a 2-sentence pitch,
Yeah.
but it is a very, very, very big idea and a very important idea. In fact, what it reminds me of is when I had Dirk. I can never remember his last name, but he's the founder of Parento, the first company offering parental leave as a benefit. And it was similar. It was like me telling him, like, this is huge. This is a society changing huge thing. I really wish that you succeed. Are you still there, or are you? I think you're frozen. No worries.
Not sure what happened there.
No worries. It happens. Okay. So what? I'll have to make myself a note to edit everything. It's fine. So what it reminded me of was when Dirk from Parento, I can't remember his last name, but when Dirk from Parento was on the show, and what they're doing is maternity and maternity leave as a benefit. And what I told him is this is radically important for society. I so wish that you get this right, that you're successful doing this, right? So that's the same thing I'm thinking here. Same thing I'm thinking here. So
second, let me try and connect to a different internet connection. It seems like the one I'm on is bad. Okay. Sorry about.
No problem. Just let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, benefits platform for the gig economy. Okay. So this is very close to my heart because I I have a really interesting relationship with the
Mm,
gig economy. Uh, I was living in the Bay when
mm,
Uber and Lyft and Sidecar, which doesn't exist anymore, started. And I
mm,
remember the first time that I called a Lyft. Uber was just black car; it was very expensive. I remember the first time that I called a Lyft, and I couldn't. It felt like magic. Like, how on earth does this work, right? And from the consumer perspective, it was amazing. And I remember living in the Bay, running into several people, like many people, who were like graphic designers or like highly educated people who maybe did a lot of consulting type work, right? And they were doing Lyft and Uber or rather Lyft on the side in order to make a little money on the side. But they
mm.
weren't full timers.
Yeah.
And then uh, a couple of years later, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I got a job at Liberty Mutual, but I had to wait a month from when I got the offer to when my background check was completed. So
Mm,
uh, I had just bought a Prius, and I was bored out of my mind. So I started driving Uber. I drove Uber full time for a month, and I drove part time for about a year. And being a gigantic insurance nerd, I was fairly annoyed by how difficult it is to insure, etc. We're getting better at that piece,
yeah.
but I read a lot because I'm a nerd. I read a lot about how to efficiently make money on Lyft and Uber, and I found that yeah, you can definitely make money. You can make cash flow. Now, making an economic profit is a lot harder, but you can create cash flow. You're basically taking equity out of your car. In my case, it made perfect sense. The car wasn't new; it was a Prius, very high, very efficient. Okay, uh, and I started a new job, and in the new job and the one after that. So in my last couple of jobs, I traveled a lot, and
Mm,
when I traveled, I would take a lot of Uber and Lyft, and I started seeing how well I can't I'm still a member of the Facebook groups for
mm,
Atlanta Uber and Lyft drivers, and they're always complaining about how that the company's cut has grown and their cut has diminished, uh, and they uh, the the drivers that I keep running into when I travel, regardless of where I go, the profile of the person that does it has changed. It's no longer, in my experience, the professional who does it a little bit on the side. Uh, it's more the full timer, in many cases a recent immigrant,
yeah.
who's doing it full time, and they don't get benefits from it, right? They don't get health insurance being the big one. Okay,
Yeah.
and you and I haven't chatted yet, so I actually don't know
What?
how far into solving this issue you are. But I think
Mm,
that most of my listeners probably don't realize, unless they work in benefits, they probably don't realize because they've never worked as a driver, right? Uh, that most of the people doing it, or a lot of the people doing it, are full timers uh, who are theoretically independent contractors. But it's in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer. It's a
yeah.
horrible abuse of the independent contracting law, because the independent
Yeah.
contracting law was designed for like doctors and lawyers who can negotiate at a very high level with an employer, and
Yeah.
can or like graphic designers who set their own rates, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
uh Lyft and Uber drivers don't set their own rates. They don't know how much like as the client, I know how much the ride pays before I take it. They don't know how much they're gonna make. Some rides
Yeah.
lose money. So
Yeah.
what I'm getting to is I it looks to me, and I might have maybe this should have been the first episode ever that I wear my Bernie bro shirt to, uh, but as a Bernie bro, uh, and we're recording right after Labor Day, right? We're recording
Yeah.
literally on Wednesday after Labor Day weekend. It's we spent a long time as a society fighting for labor rights,
Yeah.
and Lyft and Uber and all the other companies that do gig economy stuff.
Yeah.
They're fantastic for the consumer. They're awful for the worker. The worker has no rights, right? They're algorithmically getting around all of the labor protections, including access to benefits, right?
Yeah.
So this is very close to my heart, basically. So tell me more. So how does your platform help ameliorate this problem? And if I was way off on the problem, do correct me. You probably know it better than I do.
Yeah. So when we think about benefits at GigEasy, we're thinking about like just bringing the W-2 experience to a 1099 worker, right? So my first job out of college, I worked at the Boeing company. We had a portal where we would go to see my earnings, to see my health insurance, all my benefits, even my taxes. But then, if you become an independent contractor and you're not in the confines of that W-2 worker, you have to sort of go to like 4, 5, 6 different places to set yourself up with those benefits. First of all, there's a huge education gap, right? It's like the information is not readily available for you to even go and search for and find, okay, this is the person I need to get help from, this person I need to get dental from, this is the person I need to get disability from. So we're sort of aggregating a lot of those benefits under one umbrella so you can, at a push of a button, set yourself up and, protect your family.
Okay. So you build a platform. So in some ways, it's funny because you're building a platform for the platforms, right? For the people that work on one of the platforms.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it who's the target client? Is it being distributed direct to the gig worker, or is it being distributed to the companies that employ, is the wrong legal word, but that utilize a 1099 workforce?
Yeah, it's going to happen in phases. But right now, where we're at today, we're partnering with the platforms and businesses that hire contract workers,
Okay.
who then sort of who make it available to them to purchase. So it's like, okay, you have this option now to set yourself up for benefits.
Okay. So let's say that let's say that the right person at a small to medium sized platform of the sort that uses 1099 people is listening. Why should they? Why should they bring in GigEasy as an option for their non-employees?
Yeah, I mean, our products are specifically designed for gig workers. So we have a healthcare plan that starts as low as $35 a month, right?
Okay.
It's focused on just primary care and behavioral health, right? So at least you can go to the doctor, you can find out what's wrong with you, and then start figuring out what the next steps would look like to take care of yourself.
Okay, it's a start. It's absolutely a start compared to the options they have without you.
Exactly. It's definitely a start. We have a product called Rent Protect, which we designed from scratch. It covers rent for up to 6 months in the event that you're sick or injured, right?
Okay.
So as a gig worker,
that's huge.
Yeah, if you're sick, your income stops immediately. A W-2 worker can take a sick leave, they can take a leave of absence.
It's not FMLA is not perfect, and short-term disability is not perfect, but it's a world's better than if you're 1099.
Exactly. So now you can have that peace of mind in knowing that if you're sick or injured, your income doesn't stop, and you get at least up to 60% of your income that you would have gotten, that you wouldn't have gotten if you were a W-2 worker, essentially.
Okay.
So,
yeah. and then I see that I'm looking at the website, so I see that you also have dental and vision.
Yeah.
So that's great. Okay, so the $35 per month for the health plan,
Mhm.
is that paid by the platform? Is that paid by the contractor? Can they, or do they get to choose how to split that? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a bit tricky, right? Because of labor laws. You talked about how, like, 1099 workers, there's this distinction between W-2 and 1099. So technically, as a 1099 worker, the platform can't pay directly for these benefits. So it's going to happen in phases. So the phase one is just making it available to the platforms to share with their workers. And then over time, what we're seeing or what we plan on building is an avenue for businesses to allocate benefits dollars to what we're calling a GigEasy benefits account. That money piles up, and then that money can then be earmarked for purchasing benefits on our platform.
Okay. Yeah, the law is so I spent the first 5 minutes like just crapping on Lyft and Uber, especially Uber being the worst, but in general, right? And there's so many more platforms now, but they're they are half the guilty party. The other half is the law does not have an in-between option, right? Like as a former Uber driver and having talked to many Uber drivers just on the road, utilizing the service, they don't want to be employees in that they don't want to be told what hours to work and how to work. They just want to be compensated fairly, and they want to have access to the same benefits that the rest of us have. Also, the right to unionize would be amazing. Okay. So but the law is such that there's no middle ground, and the platforms are almost forced to be difficult so that this video doesn't get flagged by YouTube for me saying something horrible. Because if they're too friendly, they can get sued for we're actually employees, right? So like what I found out while driving is that if you track your mileage accurately, and in the way that the IRS requires you to, which is not easy, it's complicated, especially with for a recent immigrant, no education, it'd be really complicated to figure it out. But if you do, you can basically pay no taxes on because you're not making the reality is you're not making an economic profit. You're just taking equity out of your car. So but the platforms can't tell you that because if they helped you with it, that looks a lot more like an employment relationship, right? So it is really tricky.
There's apps that help you with that these days. And I feel like that's our job, right, at GigEasy, to help people like identify those opportunities to save money on their taxes.
That is a very good point, because you are most certainly not the employee, the employer, right? You're most certainly just a provider to the platform. So that is a very good point. And I'm so glad that I hadn't realized it, but I'm so glad that I didn't have to like convince you of that. I'm so glad that you realized that over time, one way that you can make a huge difference is by providing that education that the platforms cannot provide.
Yeah, exactly. And even on the government aspect of things, I think over time, government, so gig economy makes up about 30% of the US workforce. That number is going to hit
30% already.
30%, projected to hit 50% in 5 years.
So hold on, and it's expected to be 50% in 5 years. So part of me, I feel split in two, right? The consumer in me goes like, awesome, right? And not only that, the former Uber driver in me who did it part-time, who loves the flexibility, goes, awesome. Yeah, this is so modern. This makes so much. The millennial in me goes, this is such a modern way to work. Love it. Right.
Yeah.
And then the historian in me and the labor rights advocate in me goes, my God, like the law has not at all kept up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of that 30% and of that future 50% did not choose to, like back when I first started writing Lyft, like the guys would tell you, yeah, I was working as a graphic designer and I can make more money doing this. And then I do a little bit of graphic design on the side. And it's just a better lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that anymore. People don't quit a good job to go work a platform gig economy job anymore.
I would disagree with you there. You know, we're having the great resignation right now. People are quitting jobs
Very true. Yeah, very true.
You know, I think the millennials and the new generation of workers, they demand that flexibility.
Oh,
Some of them
yes. So let's be clear on that. Okay. So my listeners are largely carriers, brokers, insurtechs. Okay.
got it.
And according to the surveys, a third of them are senior leaders in their organizations. Okay. So hey, senior leaders in carriers, brokers, and insurtechs, let me be super clear. Yes, that your millennials and your Gen Zers expect being able to work remote. They expect flexibility. They expect a lot more than prior generations, and they are not afraid to vote with their feet. Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that, do not gigify your workforce and take their benefits away, or I guarantee you will lose a lot of them too.
Yeah. True. Definitely true. Definitely true. And you know, the hope is that government steps in and they can create some kind of, you know, avenue for the gig economy and the current, you know, work style to sort of mesh together in a way that makes sense.
It's shameful that we haven't, but
yeah,
right.
I think it'll happen though. You know, when you look at history, I did a lot of research around the gig economy. Like companies started offering benefits in like, I think it was like 1880 or 1890. American Express was the first company to do that.
Interesting. That's great to know. Okay.
Yeah, and government didn't really step in until like, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was like 1950, 1960. They started throwing out
100 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
They started throwing out regulations around like, you know, making companies offer benefits to their workers and things like that. So I think, yeah, I think historically it just takes time.
And I do what I do remember from having studied this is that some of it here in the States happened almost by accident. What I mean by that is the government never decided that health insurance would be best provided by employers. What happened is during World War II, we had limits on what you could pay for certain jobs, and the market, right? The men were gone fighting, right? So what the market did when they couldn't pay what the employers did when they couldn't pay what the market demanded was to give benefits such as health insurance, and then it just stuck, and we're caught in the gigantic mess we are today when it comes to health insurance, right? And it just never got fixed. And it only got worse and worse and worse. I've been in the States for 20 out of my 39 years, and it's gotten significantly worse in my 20 years here, right? I am really curious. So I saw the problem because I drove Uber for a little bit. What's your background? How did you realize that this was a significant problem, and then how did you come up with oh wow, I could start fixing this?
Yeah. So I've been doing startups for a while now. I did two startups, both in the gig economy. So I founded a company called New. It's a marketplace that connects Airbnb homeowners with cleaning contractors. And then I did
The problem I never
Hugo.
thought of. Okay, and then what?
Yeah, you have to be an Airbnb host to deal with that
Yeah, exactly.
problem.
I've never done that.
And then Hugo was a startup doing Uber for school buses. So an app that allows you to see where your child is on a bus, and then you
Oh,
do.
nice.
Yeah. So the first company we had like distribution centers in the cities we were at, and then at the corner we usually have like an office setup going on. We would stock up linens, towels, toiletries, and then the cleaners, they would come in the morning with backpacks to like get linens, do their jobs, come back, drop off the dirty. So during all these interactions, I'd have conversations with these contract workers, just learn about their lives, what's going on with them. And a lot of there was this particular lady, every time I'm building for GigEasy, I always think about her. Her name was Sonata. She was Eastern European. She was the highest earning person on the platform. She worked pretty much 7 days straight. And it got to a point where she would come in and we would hear that she's sick, she's like sniffling and like really sick, and she's still coming to work. And then you're like, we need to like turn off the app for you so you don't come in because it's not healthy. And she's like, oh, so my husband is sick, right? So all the money that she's making, she's using it to pay for his treatment, right? It's like, why don't you have health insurance? And she's an independent. She just assumes that she's supposed to get it from an employer. She doesn't know how to get herself set up. And then you see the same thing with people in the school bus industry, where it's like they only get paid during the school year. They only get benefits during the school year. So when school goes out in the summer, they're on their own. And over and over and over, you're having these conversations with these individuals, and it's like, okay, why hasn't anyone solved this problem? It's really about just aggregating different
So
services. Go ahead.
why hasn't anyone solved this problem? For the same reason, in my opinion,
Okay.
for the same reason that um that we haven't I don't, for the same reason that humanity hasn't solved malaria, because it's a disease that kills a lot of poor people and very few rich people. So it's
Yeah.
invisible to the people that
Yeah.
have the power to do something about it, right? So where the magic happened was you actually took the time to talk to the lady, which
Yeah.
made a problem that you would have never thought of because you never had to live it, right? Made it visible. It is visible to millions, but millions who don't have the ability to do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. So, and then even on the platform side, it's like supply and demand. Like demand is paying the money. We just need to make sure there's enough supply to match the demand on the platform side. So there's definitely a ton of work to do as far as getting benefits set up.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. It's I really love this story. I really love that there was a specific person
Yeah.
that I think that there's a great lesson to executive leadership in general, and a great lesson to entrepreneurs. And we have lots of those that listen to the show, or potential entrepreneurs, people that kids that want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Great lesson there about listening to what the problems really are. In InsurTech, we had a lot of the early InsurTechs that were tech plays, tech toys, tech hammers looking for an insurance nail, right?
Yeah.
And not really knowing if the problem existed, right? You found the problem, and then you thought about, okay, how can I make a difference in this problem?
Yeah.
And you found it not by going to conferences with other people who don't have this problem.
Yeah.
Right, you found it by really listening to the people that you were serving. Fantastic. Real one. a real pleasure to have you on the show. I really hope that you guys succeed at this, and look forward to have you back.
Yeah,
So sometime down the road. Um, Go change the world, dude.
yeah,
Uh,
we're trying our best. We're trying our best, one day at a time. That's
exactly.
the problem. Yeah.
Fantastic. Eventually, this is going to require a political solution, right?
Yeah.
And GigEasy is not large enough to lobby for that political solution.
Yeah. Mhm.
Both for you and for everybody, for every other entrepreneur in who wants to be an entrepreneur. How do we get the players that are big enough to lobby to
Yeah.
do the right thing here?
I think you can also align